Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Our Small Majority. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Malik Rahim, formerly known as Donald Guyton. Now, Malik has done a lot throughout his life. He was a former Black Panther Party member and done a lot of work revolving around environmental justice and global solidarity. He has a very remarkable history concerning social justice, to say the least. And in addition to being an active member of the party, he aided in the release of Angolia 3, when three African American prison inmates were held for decades in solitary confinement while imprisoned in Louisiana. Afterwards, he pushed for proper prison reform and human rights for all inmates. In 2005, Rahim helped with a relief effort in New Orleans and established common ground after Hurricane Katrina hit. To continue the hot fight for initiatives and push to preserve natural ecosystems within the community in the Deep South, Rahim still does what he does at 72 years old. Matthew and I had the opportunity to call him and talk for an hour before he had another event to go to. So we already know that you've done so much throughout your life, Malik. And every single time that we go down there for a visit in Louisiana, I always have new questions. But one thing that I wanted to ask you about was just a little brief history of your time inside the Black Panther Party and when you were actually in Northern California before you went to Louisiana and did all the work with Hurricane Katrina and relief funds and making plans for affordable housing. What was it like being a part of the Black Panther Party?
I wouldn't be nothing of who I am today if it wasn't for the Black Panther Party.
Mhm.
Party gave my life meaning. Party taught me how to do for self. To be a part of it. It's something that the average person would never experience. I mean, to be in a company of people, young people of like minds
Mm-hmm.
that believe in the upliftment, believe that, hey, that we can make a difference, that we can uplift our community. To be in the presence of young people like this, see, then I was probably your age now.
Mm.
I've lived through the segregation.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Vietnam. I've seen the murder of Dr. King and all the marches and demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was blessed to be coming from a community called Algiers. Well, that's what they call it. But, we had Rudy Lombard. And this was a man that, that helped, that fought to integrate some of the stores here. Was on that Freedom Bus. He was a part of that. Him and Aretha Castle. And through him, I was able to even meet Ralph Brown.
Wow.
The Southern Leadership Christian Leadership, it was SBLC, was founded here. So this was a city that had that quality, but it was the party. It was to sit there and to see the love, and that's not only here. You see, the year I joined the party, most people was getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I got into the party, it was 1970.
Mm.
By then, the COINTELPRO was well in place. But to see young men and women willing to stand up to this government and say that, hey, you are wrong. And if you won't do this in our community, we gonna do it. Right now, we are going through this thing of police brutality. That was
Wow.
the same thing that we was going through at the same time. It was the party that showed that, hey man, this ain't gonna end until we stand up as men and say that we gonna protect our own community, and we gonna monitor them, and we gonna do this. It was the party that started some of the first programs. There wasn't no free breakfast in school. There wasn't no free food for students before the Black Panther Party.
Right.
If you went to school, if you left home hungry, you was going back home hungrier.
Right.
But it was the party that started a free breakfast program. You dig? And within 1 year, the party started in 1969. The next year, when we started the NCCF here in New Orleans, that was one of the first programs we implemented, the free breakfast for school program, And it was things like that, the sickle cell awareness, starting health clinics, showing up for health care, pest control program. I mean, these are the things that we started seeing people was doing, standing up. So it was during that time that I joined the party, and what it was like something that I would never. If it's anything that I would change, that wouldn't be one of them.
Right. Well, I know that after you did work in the Black Panther Party, you moved on and you actually helped, um, not only with the relief fund after Hurricane Katrina, but also when it came to prison reform and maybe even prison abolishment too, because of what happened with the Angola 3, and even your own experience when it comes to solitary confinement. Could you touch a little bit more on that?
Well, in 1970, I was in a shootout with the New Orleans police. And after that shootout, I went to, it took us from Desire Housing Project to Tulane and Broad to court. And then from court, they placed all male prisoners on death row.
Wow.
So that was my experience, my first experience with prison. Before then, I had never been really arrested for anything. So now, then after the second shootout, and after this, the city implemented this plan to just crush us. There was too many of us to keep on death row.
Right.
So then they put us in what was called a dungeon. And while on C1, that's where I truly learned about solitary confinement. That was my first real experience. I thought it was bad on death row. It was the 5th floor of Old Parish Prison jail here. But when we went down to C1, at that time, it was my experience there. That's where I met Herman Wallace and Albert Woodfox.
And what was your experience in solitary confinement now? Because we actually just had a guest, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and she's a professor at the University of California, Irvine, and she specializes in solitary confinement, and she gave sort of, I guess, the educated experience, or on the other side of being a researcher and an observer in what effects it has on a person. But during your time going through that, what was that like, and why was it more of a push for you to advocate against it?
One, as for myself, and I'm going to tell you, I did time as a member of Panther Party, and I did time as Donald Guyton.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seeing both of them. The time I did on death row, the time I did in the dungeons of C1 up in Parish Prison. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact it was some of the most glorious times of my life. Because there I saw young black men willing to stand up and say, you ain't going to treat me any kind of way.
Right.
I've seen individuals that refuse to say I bow down. I was telling, I was on the call right before your call was with a brother of mine that's living in Berlin, Germany.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I was telling him about our community.
Mm-hmm.
Big about it, yeah, and that's what I saw. I saw that. I saw individuals like Herman Waller and Albert Woodfox that came down. I saw individuals that was not only in the shootout with me, but that stood up and said, well, hey, man, we going to stand firm for our communities. You think that we was going to change this. You think, because I'll tell anyone that if we would been given any kind of constitutional rights,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't that it was a crime to stand up and say, I want to be treated as a man, if we wasn't denied the rights of a full American citizen, if that wasn't a crime, and this city and this government would have helped us with the reestablish of Marshall plans in our community. We seen what happened because our fathers was those black veterans that came back from World War II
Mm-hmm.
and was denied equal rights. Our grandfather was the one that was denied the same in World War I. So we had seen this. And because we wanted to stand up for our communities, and we said no longer we allow you to just come in and brutalize and exploit us. You know, because you could never understand as a white boy up in California what it would like to be a black growing up in the deep south under Jim Crowism. That's right.
Right.
Shit. You know, I mean, Jim Crow was nothing but apartheid American style.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the heart of it. New Orleans and Louisiana play all this homage about Louis Armstrong.
Right.
But in the year that Louis Armstrong was the king of the Zulu parade,
Mm-hmm.
when he left the next day, he said he would never step foot in this city again because of the racism. So they have to experience this. You dig? And to see individuals that said that, hey, enough. You know, hey, it's gonna be a change. I ain't got to live like this. If you don't want to live with me, if we can't live together, so be it. But you ain't gonna deny me my right to live and to live as a man in this city. That you're gonna give me the same respect that you want me to give you.
Right.
And you had young men that was standing up and saying this. They said, no, we ain't waiting no longer. You dig? It's easy for you to say wait when you had a bed to go lay in. You dig? You had food on your table. You dig? You had the security of going to sleep with a police force that is there to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have this. We went to sleep hungry. We went to sleep without that knowledge and with the terror of the police. You know, not the love or the admiration of them, but the terror of them. Because we knew that they was only in our community for one reason, to oppress us.
Mm.
No, I mean, this was the life that an individual was saying that, hey, we ain't taking it any longer. You think? No, you ain't gonna just treat me any kind of way. And when I start seeing it and seeing it with individuals, because at many times, most of us, we'll break out with that rage and that act of defiance and get off into the next thing you know, we're in prison. And then we come to ourselves. And that's what I saw with many of them. You dig, when we was locked down, you dig, individuals that's in there that is trying to, that's starting to learn about how to live, and stand up as a man. So when you start seeing that, during that time, it was, I'll tell you what, I don't envy your generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love what I can, the experience that I had at that time.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of our generation and us going through this movement dealing with police brutality and even an extension of other injustices, what would you say? Because I know with a lot of like friends and colleagues and people my age, they're all like, some people are just now coming to the realization of it, like, oh, this is a real thing and things like that. And then other ones are like, it's always been here. Like, how are you just now seeing it? How would you sort of like what piece of advice would you give to young people today, not only when it comes to advocating for this, for equal justice, but also educating yourself too?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like I told my partner who's sitting right here next to me, Dennis Kai, you dig? I don't envy y'all at all. Because of the fact that what your generation gonna go through.
Mm-hmm.
You might be the generation, and right now y'all have been so duped that y'all don't know what's really at risk. We fighting over all these trivial things, but life as we know it on this planet is at risk.
Right.
And there's nothing more important to this. You're gonna be the generation. No, I don't envy you. Because you're gonna be the generation that's gonna have to find a solution for all weapons of mass destruction that this nation have right now. That's gonna be antiquated.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be the generation that's gonna have to deal with the pollution that we spent so that we can enjoy life. This virus is shutting us down, and now all of a sudden, the earth is cleaner than it's ever been. So again, we ready to get back to the same old thing, but it's gonna be your generation. You're gonna have to sit up and tell your grandchildren as you look at this, our people is partying and not practicing social distancing right now in the midst of this pandemic. You're gonna have to tell them this. You're gonna have to answer that because you're gonna be that generation. Because your children will not have a choice. Our legacy to them is nothing but I'm a spiritual person, so the only thing I could truly tell you that it's a sin. Mm-hmm. It's a great sin that we have befell on you, but it's going to be even a greater sin that your generation going to be the generation that's going to determine whether life go on as we know it. How much pollution we going to sit around and put in the air? Because right now this pandemic haven't shown us nothing. Because if it's lift tonight and we could go back to living like we was tomorrow, we couldn't wait till the night is over. We're not talking about how can we clean this environment up. And it's nothing more important than that. Everybody's saying now that the most important part of it is this is the economy. Well, I wouldn't care how much money you got. If you can't breathe this air and drink this water, it becomes mute. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a time that pretty soon is going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So right now, we have an oil spill here in Louisiana that has been spilling oil ever since 2004.
Wow.
You know, and nobody cares.
Where in Louisiana is that oil spill?
In the Gulf.
In the Gulf?
It's called a Taylor oil spill. Mm-hmm. Wow. But nobody cares. Because we are so drunk on prosperity. You know, we don't care. You know, I mean, there's very few places up on this planet where right now, maybe almost a half of the world's population is struggling for fresh water, drinkable water, and we flushed our feces down with it without a care in the world. I believe that's a sin. You know, so again, no, I don't envy your generation, because I truly believe unless your generation act, stand up, and just get your mind off of all that other old bullshit. Get your mind off it. Start thinking about what's at stake. Is a job more important than saving this environment? You know, if a pair of shoes. You know, I mean, what is more important than making sure that your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren have the ability to breathe fresh air? Is your job more important than that?
No.
We live in the most technically advanced nation on this planet. Because there's no other reason that we could justify or say that we're in that position when we are only 5% of the world's population. But we are producing over 30% of the world pollution. And we sit up there and we think honor in it. You know, half of the, almost, 40% of the food that we produce, we throw away.
Right.
I mean, dairy farm where they emptying out milk. Farmers that have to plow the crops in. No, we don't care. We take into consideration things that is I guess as an old man I could say it, but just a life of folly. Mm-hmm. You know, that we would rather have a mansion. We don't need a house, we need mansions now. Mm-hmm. We want to fly around the world, not to help, not to assist in saving this planet, just so that we could say that we have been there.
Right.
You know, we care more about an NFL football team than we care about the pollution. In 30 years from now, if New Orleans still exists, you know, if we fail to do anything, if we fail to save our wetlands, because one of the things that anybody could tell you, and they could always hear me saying one thing, and this is one thing that I truly believe. Mm-hmm. So goes the Gulf, so goes America. So goes America, so goes life as we know it on this planet. But right now, you dig what's happening in the Gulf. Like I said, when you have oil spill that's been going on since 2004, and nobody know anything about it. When you have over 12,000 abandoned oil rigs just over the Gulf of Mexico in Louisiana, and nobody know about it. Then all of them, well, say the majority of them is leaking. So you have this. You had what happened when the Gulf oil spill, and how we use coexant to suppress the oil. You dig? Nobody cares. You dig? But we have solution. We can save the dough. We can, if we spent as much money as we have spent right now, because since Katrina, to build a storm protection system that can probably protect us from a category 2. I believe we have spent about $12 to $15 billion on building this thing. You know what that money would have done for wetland restoration? And with that, for every mile of wetland, it can absorb a foot of a tidal surge.
Wow.
You know, and the reason why New Orleans was picked to be here is because the year that the year after Iberville came here, Iberville and Bienville, we was hit by a major hurricane, and they was able to survive here. That's the reason why they took this land from the home of Indian, this location where New Orleans is because of the protection that it had against storms. You think, and this is what we are losing.
Right.
You know, right now, you know, and it's not only happening here, and it's not only happening with storms, it's with fire. Today, they say in Death Valley, which is out by Yale, the temperature is supposed to be 130 degrees. You know, is this what you're going to inherit? Would you be able to say in 20 or 30 years or in 50 years? Because right now I'm 72. You know, so say I got most of y'all by at least 50 years. In 50 years, what the temperature going to be? And listen, it don't have to be. You know, we can make a demand. It should be something that we can do. If we would just put an end to driving fossil fuel vehicles, because now we have the technology. We can start creating to make sure that every car is running off of clean, renewable energy. We need to make that a priority. These are the things that are going to create the kind of jobs that will save mankind. And that's what we have to lead it to, because it's going to be up on us. And one thing that this pandemic has shown us, you think that you can, I don't care what you might say about when we're going to find a cure for a vaccine, but I'll tell you what, this virus, it's not attacking one race, it's not attacking one nation, it's attacking all of us. It's a global problem. And until we're talking about finding solutions globally and working toward finding that now, you dig, it's going to always be with us. You dig? So we have to get this part of it together.
So what's the best way for our generation and younger generations to get involved? I know you started your organization, Common Ground, to help your community during Hurricane Katrina. How do we make significant change now?
By networking. Listen, you got to be, listen, no government have a conscience. The people have a conscience. And that's what you have to start doing. You have to start making people aware. You have to do it by making this, when they talk about the economy, then you talk about, well, what about the environment? No? What about the environment? You know, what is more important? If I had all the rights that you have, if I had every right that I want, and this being the last generation on this planet, to enjoy life as we know it right now. I don't want to be, have equal rights on a dying planet.
Right.
And that's what, and that's what's at stake.
Right.
I mean, we have to start caring. We got to look at what's happening, how they burning down the rainforest. We have to get involved. We have to understand that right now, while we sitting around and talking about what's happening to us as individuals and what's going on here and what's going on there, we have to understand that, we got to start talking about what's going on globally. And if it's nothing else that would bring us together, that we can find common ground on, and that is this: we all have to breathe the same air and drink the same water in order to survive. And we need to make sure that every generation to come have the same rights and to have the same ability that we have, and take it and enjoy the same thing that we're enjoying right now, without the fact that we are just doing it in such a selfish way. We need to come together and do that. So it's just the idea of doing it. How can you do it? Shit, the only media that no government is capable of controlling is the media that we own now.
Right.
That internet. Let's start networking with each other. Let's start understanding what's happening right now in India and in Africa and in Asia. Let's start getting involved in it. Let's start making sure that there's nothing more important. Right now, there's nothing more important than environmental peace and justice. And that's the stand we have to make. We have to make a global stand for environmental peace and justice. And there's nothing greater. I've been blessed because, as I said, I was on a phone call right before this one with a brother of mine that live in Berlin, Germany. And we have formed an organization that we're working toward these ends. And that is Global Solidarity Forever.
Right.
And this is the thing that we are working toward. How can we how can we come together? How can we save this planet? How can we make sure that that future generation applaud our efforts and not curse us for what we have done? Because I want you to be able to understand this here. Well, you won't ask us this. Why are you? How can you spend money to go to a football game, or go to a concert to hear somebody sing, when you didn't do nothing to save this environment? And you don't work that you don't lived 70 years and you didn't do nothing. You didn't do nothing to save this environment. You can't blame that on your color. Can't blame that upon your nationality, your sexuality. Can't blame that on you that you lived a long life and you ain't did nothing to save this planet. Let's get real. So again, I don't envy you, but I tell you what, I would make my transition from here to the hereafter with a smile on my face if I knew that there was others that's willing to stand up and say, listen, you could go it on and make that transition, old timer, because we have picked up this cause. You dig that? We're going to make sure that others be able to understand that there's nothing more important than global solidarity based upon saving this planet, saving life as we know it, because the planet going to go on. I can't stick my hand in a microwave while it's on, but I can see roaches in a microwave, and they come out and just go it on. So life will go on, you dig, but not as we know it. And who want to be the last generation?
Right.
Who won't be the generation that said that I'm the last, I done buried everybody? You know, nobody want to be that generation. So let's stop it now while we have a chance. Let's get to work. Let's get involved. Let's start working for environmental peace and justice.
So, would you say that global solidarity and environmental justice that could be like the key in order to overcome, racial stereotypes, racial inequality, and all these other social constructs that we've made ourselves as mankind?
Oh, yes, because it's going to take a global effort.
Right.
It's going to take a global effort.
Right.
And when we start working together, we'll start finding out that there's no difference. The same type of life that I want here in America is the same type of life a person wants in Russia. It's the same type of life a person wants in China. It's the same type of life that a person wants in Central and South America. It's the same type of life people want in the Caribbean. It's the same type of life that people want in Africa. It's the same type of life. But once we start working together, then again, we'll start looking at I'll tell you what, if you're a person that done been to parts of this world,
Mm-hmm.
and you have seen the suffering that people have gone through because of a lack of fresh water, and you could justify using fresh drinkable water to flush down your feces, then you're a person I don't even want to have a conversation with. I don't even want to say I know you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come out of that drunken state. Let's start finding some solutions. You dig? Be blessed. You dig? When I met y'all was from a college.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't no poor college. One of the richest colleges in California. Dig? So again, get them involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you. You can say this, we're going to find solutions for this virus in America. And we're going to vaccine every American by the end of next year.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the rest of the world? Because this virus done showed us, if it didn't show us anything, it has shown us that we have to understand to live together globally. We always had generations that was able to destroy other generations.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're talking about destroying life as we know it. And there's nothing you could tell me can justify destroying life as we know it.
Right. Most definitely. Well, what piece of advice would you give young people or like our audience today in order to start an organization? I know that it first starts with networking.
Listen, that's all you have to go into your schools.
Uh-huh.
Go into your universities. Get them involved in it. Understand that if they don't have an environmental program, then create one. Find some solutions that we can work together. Make that important. Understand that we have to look at this, that the air that's right over China today going to be over us next week. We need to understand this. We need to understand and take advantage of this opportunity. This is a God-given opportunity for us to change out the way that we was living. That we can start talking about how can we understand that we can build an economy based upon environmental justice. We can build an economy on taking all the plastics out of the ocean and in our rivers and our lakes and streams. We can build an economy on changing from fossil fuel, which we know is destroying this planet, to sustainable energy. You know, we can build that economy, but we have to come together. And we have to understand that unless we do it globally, that it ain't gonna work.
In next week's episode, we're going back to Denmark and meeting with Thomas and Eva on a new initiative that's being pushed in prisons throughout Europe. Can the use of board games be the key in healing broken families affected by incarcerations? Find out next time here at OSM. And as always, thank you for listening.